the topic for today is 5 urgent measures to kickstart the Indian economy. The word kickstart is usually used for a two-wheeler. When a economy is under stagnant condition, like it happened since last 3, 4, 5 years, it definitely needs a kickstart, and that's the reason the word kickstart is used usually in the economics for this state. Our story begins with the year 2016 with demonetization, when we were already growing at 8.4%, and then government was still getting more ambitious. They wanted to grow even faster. That is when demonetization has happened, and you have seen the result in next 4 years, that is till 2019-20, we reached up to 4.2 percentage, a big fall by any measure of standards. Our goal should be to get it back to 8% and even more, because I was just remembering about 1.5 years back, Rajan in one of his lectures was telling, until India grows up to 10%, we cannot solve our problem of economy, employment, and giving adequate standard of living to Indians. So 8% should be our target. Now let me start with what are the major problems that we are having, which have come after 2016, which somehow our government is not able to eradicate and which need to be eradicated. The first problem is neglect of informal sector. In fact, all the economists also are surprised on this issue, that the serious impact of informal sector depression was very much visible to all, but it will affect so much. It is especially so because informal sector in India is not only a source of production, but it is also a demand creator. It has got a double effect. On one side, our production goes down. On second side, our demand goes down. It is the cumulative effect of both that we are witnessing, which even our economists are surprised. Even I have not read any expert opinion on that. Anybody could foresee that this is going to be so much serious. This is our first problem. That's first major problem. Second thing is employment. Employment, let us admit it very clearly, unless our employment problem improves, the economy can't improve. Because India's main strength is its manpower. Whether it is educated, we have got all type of manpower in India, educated, we are the largest educated manpower of the world, technology savvy, skilled, self-employed, they are also like employees only, and finally ordinary manual labor. If we are able to utilize our manpower fruitfully, we'll become one of the most powerful country of the world. Let me go back to the first point. I think I missed one point under informal sector. Professor Arun Kumar has told very clearly in his discussion that 94% of working manpower in India belongs to unorganized or informal sector, which is producing, whose output is 45% in GDP. The solution lies is putting more cash into their pockets and improving their output. In case we are able to achieve that, again our problem will be solved. They need to earn more and they need to produce more. That is part of informal sector. Somehow I missed why I'm again telling. Similarly, the employment, it is partly again linked up to informal sector, but then employment is not only issue of the formal sector, it is in organized sector also, it is in technological area also, it is in the high education also. Number three, financial reformation of financial sector. Now, financial sector reformation is long overdue. It is not from demonetization, it's not started demonetization, it was there during your UPA time, and we were always having problem of reforming of our financial sector. Here again, our financial sector is very big. We have got financial institutions, we have got instruments, different type of institutions, we have got large transnational funds, and the idea of the for financial sector is that how to utilize all this money wherever it is needed most. So the objective of reformation of financial sector is to increase the operational efficiency of each of the constitution of financial sector, so the ultimate the objective of utilizing funds, first of all making the funds available, and second them using them in most efficient manner. That is the objective of reformation of financial sector, which is very long overdue. It is from Manmohan Singh days time. Even before that, this was always needed. So that is point number three. Point number four, we have to understand our strengths, which are our main areas which need to be improved. In case the country has to grow 8% and above, our strong area, we have to have some sort of a master plan to develop them. I'll just read out some of the area which we can term as our strong areas: power plants, transportation, infrastructure, healthcare and education, high technology and R&D, defense, software, pharma, retailing, entertainment, and so on. There are about 15, 16 sectors which I have listed. I'll send it in the detail. But these all 16 sectors require a master plan to develop, in which we should get favorable government policies. We need lot of funds from international market also, as well as within India itself. We have to have a political will and we have to manage it professionally. That is number four. And finally, income augmentation program. We need our poverty sector. We have got a very large poverty sector. In case we are able to eradicate our poverty, it will not only be a very good social welfare here, it will be also uh, like uh, it will also directly contribute to the economic development of the country. Because when such a large number of population, when their poverty is removed, they immediately contribute to the economic development of the nation. So these are the five major problems which are there in our country. One more problem which I just came to know 2 days back, it came to a notice, which I must make a mention, even though I'm not gone in detail. I discovered suddenly, I mean on a TV channel, कि 70% of Indian GDP comes from government purchasing. About 2 lakh crore is our size of GDP. I'm talking approximately. 70% is of that is generated by government own purchasing and government activity. And government is a very big defaulter. I don't know whether you remember, even before pandemic period, it was discovered the greatest defaulter of payment of the whole country was the government, and that was causing a very big drain to the national economy, to the all the sector we were dealing. It tells upon not only cost efficiency, it also calls upon the both cost as well as productivity. It has an adverse effect. Even though this is 6-1, but I just thought I must make a mention. Now I will tell you 5 steps that I am suggesting This there can be many others. We cannot say these are the only five steps which can be done. There will be any number of economists. They will suggest different means, and I think you should also. I've requested all of you also to suggest steps that you feel are essential to solve the problem. But I have made my suggestion, which I am wanting to share with you. The first point is district planning boards. I am suggesting there are about 725 districts in the country. For each district, there should be a planning district planning board where the local businesses should be involved. It will involve resources both from the state government as well as state government, central government. Apart from the major initiative will be done by the private sector, small scale sector, SMEs, as well as agriculture. Agriculture is very much part of informal economy. So all the 725 districts, we will have so many different committees. Like if somebody is looking after diamond, like in Surat, diamond is a very big uh, business. So there will be one committee only on diamonds. Fundamentally, I will like to tell you what are the areas are selected. For each district, it will have its own areas of focus. All that now I'll tell you the various way in which I have listed out these products. First are all the traditional businesses of the district, particularly those with a growth potential of at least 20%. That is number one. Number two, education, health, and agriculture. Apart from broadly covering social and infrastructure areas. Number three, Manarga and other social welfare measures coming under income augmentation programs. These are the three things which will be coming under district planning board. The second solution, consumer come farm servicing malls. I am suggesting this is basically for agriculture sector, and which is again it will be a unique model anywhere in the world. We have got today more than 5,500 mandals. For each mandal, I'm saying four number. We will need a very large number of consumer come farm servicing malls. Consumer malls are just like now we have got heritage, just we have got a fresh. There are so many malls all across the country. I want to suggest malls which will market agriculture products also as well as consumer products also. Why consumer product? That will give financial strength to them. They will be independent business model. It will not have any involvement of government. The total MSP, total purchasing will be done by these malls only. Now here, for our size of country, we need 23,000 approximately malls, such malls. One fourth of which will be focusing, they will be also working like agro malls, centers. Now, what type of services they'll give for the agriculture, particularly I'm talking. They will meet the need of such different needs of agriculture, all the needs of the farmer, like MSP, farming inputs, that is quality inputs like seeds and fertilizers, technical assistance, farm loan, insurance, etc. They will be within the reach of farmer. They will be within the financial means of supposing any small farmer also if he wants some tractor service for his land, he should be able to afford it actually. They will also give technical guidance what seeds to buy, what crop to grow. All comprehensive services will be provided by these centers. And they will also combine with this function. They will also have services like Magnagra as well as social forestry and social welfare program. But finally, the most important thing is these malls will be significantly owned by farming community itself, so that thereby it will also augment their incomes as well as employment opportunity to them. Part of that, maybe a large part of it will be corporate owned also, but a part of it will be owned by agriculture community themselves. Of course, part of it will be also owned by Artia. Now there is a big investment in the rural sector at this moment by the Artia and different companies which are doing marketing in the rural sector. can be also introduced, since their business will go down, so they can invest in this. So this is my solution, which also nobody else suggested, but that is my number two steps. The third steps is reformation of financial sector. As I have already told that about the bank, they need a very big thing. And certain steps government has already taken. The first problem, there are three definite flaws in our banking system. One is NPS, and now there is a uh, bankruptcy code also. They are big drain on our banks. How to solve that problem? That is the first issue, first flaw that has to be solved. For that, the government is already working on the objective through consolidation and recapitalization of the banking sector. Beside outright privatization and emergence of new bank or other financial instruments, that should be done forthright. What government is trying to do, but they are taking too much time. They are talking from last, I don't know how long they have been talking. They should do it fast. If whatever money they have to lose, they should lose and get on with that and not lose any more than what already has been lost. So that is the third point, which is very, very serious in the financial sector is politician. Politician should be removed from this financial institution. The way they interfere in financial sector, and we have to grant autonomy to RBI. It should have been done 10 years back. If it has not been done now, it should be done immediately. Without that, financial sector cannot be improved. Today, in case you take care of NPS, tomorrow again NPS will come. Unless political interference is stopped, unless the RBI is granted autonomy, it cannot do its duty well. It's a very professional job, and there should be zero interference from them. You can't make it zero, at least minimize interference of political bosses. That is the financial sector. Number four, kickstart the engine of growth. I think I've not used this word earlier. Engine of growth means those 15, 16 sectors where big push is required. We need really master plan. I will like to tell you the world is looking forward. India is a big opportunity not only for us but for the whole world. American financial institution, Europe, Germany, and our own. They are also all looking for an investment opportunity. India is the biggest investment opportunity in the world, and I don't see any reason why government should go back from there. They should be with full determination. And now with the Quad agreement that we have made with Australia, USA, and Japan, we have got a big source of funds, and I don't think funds are lacking. We need to have a really master plan where we can get those funds and utilize them one and transform the country in the coming 20 years. We will be, as I told in my introduction, an Indian is earning only 40% of what a Chinese is earning, and 25% are what a Malaysian is earning. We should get out of that. We should at least be on the level of Malaysia before coming to the USA and Japan, and then finally Scandinavian country. The last point, that is number five, is income augmentation plan. Poverty eradication is a very big business, can be business happen, and we should again pursue it. Without income augmentation plan, we cannot have a proper national development objective of bringing improvement of our country. For that, we have got Magnagra working very well. We have to look after education, healthcare, skill development, higher education. Then we can give tools and implements freely for the poorer lot. Anybody earning less than, say, let us say 30,000 today per month, he should be eligible for this. Anybody earning less than 30, it could be 40,000 next year, depending on the requirement. This figure of 30,000 I'm just mentioning out of head, and they should be including, there can be a universal minimum income plan also for the identified need plan. There is nothing wrong in direct cash transfer also if it is done properly in an effective manner and a neutral manner. There's nothing wrong in that, but we need a very efficient planning, funding, implementation, and monitoring of this number five. So my fifth step, I don't know how much time I've taken, but this is what with this I conclude my first speech, and now I'll invite SP Singh ji first to give his.
Just a quick relook at these steps suggested by you. I would like to actually add a couple of things. The first point that you mentioned was a district development plan. So in 2018, the Niti Aayog has already launched an aspirational district project. So this aspirational district program of Niti Aayog's, which was launched in 2008, actually is trying to do the same that you were mentioning. So the need would be for the Niti Aayog to actually take it to the next level and see that the purpose for which this plan has been formed actually gets executed. Another thing is as regards the financial sector reform. So you actually mentioned NPAs, and I would like to just add that government has already do something big about it. And in the last budget only, the finance minister actually announced the setting up of a bad bank. It is a new concept in India. A bad bank actually is a bank to which all the NPAs of all the banks are transferred. And that bank is left to resolve those NPAs only. And the banks which transfer these NPAs to that bad bank, they are actually relieved of continuing with the provisions for those banks, and that way their balance sheets become healthier, and then they don't have to worry for the NPA. They can focus on the basic banking functions. So already something very big is in progress. Very soon we'll have this bad bank. Now about some contributions from my side. The first thing that comes to my mind is that yes, the economy seems to be in a troubled spot, and there are two ways to normally the economists would address such situations. One is reforms in the supply side, and the other is the reforms in the demand side. But as it happens, mostly most governments would do much more in pushing the supply, and they do pretty less in terms of doing enough to generate demand. So therefore, if you look back during all these plans that the finance minister came out with during the COVID times when it started actually, and there are some steps still continuing like performance linked incentives, etc. You would find that most of the steps taken are actually aimed at pushing the supply side, which is absolutely fine. But at the same time, we would like to actually push the demand side also, because unless the demand is there, the economy certainly can't get kick-started. So for the purpose of raising demand, there are only two ways. One is, and demand actually means that people have more money to spend. And they can only spend more when they have better or more jobs, or in case, as the situation presently suggests, we can't immediately generate crores of jobs. We have to artificially put money into the pockets of the people. And when I mention artificially putting, I'm referring to the poorest of the poor, which is about 40% of our population, because empty stomachs, they can't actually bring about the kickstart of the economy. We need our labor to be having good food, good life, and therefore, even if at the cost of increasing our fiscal deficit, which in emergency times makes no meaning, because in emergencies fiscal deficit is put aside, and the governments of the day try to retrieve the situation. So we'll have to transfer food and money to the poor sections of the society. The government has already done quite a lot in this, but with the kind of food available with FCI, etc. And better note, I'm saying we waste about 17% of food grains every year, and about 28% fruits and vegetables every year. So there is no harm if we can extend the food lying in our godowns to the really needy people, and I think that can help. Another way this section can be pushed again is by involving them more into Manrega. I would like to share statistics. The highest enrollment in Manrega ever recorded by the government, whichever government, has been close to 7.5 crores enrolled annually. But it was during the last year, the government figures only tell us. It was in the last financial year
खत्म होने वाला करके कुछ
that we had 11.4 crore people registered in Manrega, which indicates about 4 crore additional registrations. Now, this tells us two things. One, the people who had migrated after the onset of COVID, and we saw all those pictures and all, and there were denials from the government, and a lot of debate took place. But it remains a fact that nearly 3 crore plus people went back home, because from a Manrega registration of about 3.23% to about 11+% indicates that people have gone back, and there is nothing wrong in it. I would rather suggest that government should be going all the way to enroll even more people, because that way it would be relieved of you see, giving them free money or free food, because in the bargain of the Manrega services, we generate a lot of social assets like schools, roads, and bunds, etc. The other thing which comes to my mind, and which Kuldeep Singh ji has already mentioned in one of his steps, is to latch up to the opportunity that is there because of the geopolitical situation wherein China has become a target of a large part of developed economies, and India can truly become a manufacturing hub. All it needs to do is have a very strong diplomatic maneuvering, and at the same time, at the ground level, we have to be really running one window shows, which is very highly, simplified steps to invite people over for various sectors where we can have this manufacturing advantage. The third thing that comes to my mind is the states also need to play a very important role in this. So the center state dynamics need to change. Very sorry to be sharing that in the last couple of years, ever since the GST regime came, the states are falling short in terms of their revenue sources, and unfortunately, the center is not able to fulfill its promises of sharing revenue on time. So we'll need to energize our states so that they can play an active role in this process. Another very important point, which may not have immediate benefits, but certainly lasting benefits, is to put a lot of focus on our skill training programs. The government came out with a very ambitious skill training program. It actually established a separate ministry for this, but unfortunately, for various reasons, the skill development program has not actually given the desired results. And I, having been in a business where skilled and semi-skilled labor means so much, I find that there's a lot of scope that if we train people as, say, electricians or plumbers or carpenters, maybe as data entry operators, we can actually generate a lot of jobs for them, and which would in the long run help our economy. Other than that, a very small point again comes to my mind, which can develop a lot of revenue for the government, which can be utilized in these emergency days, which is there are lots of funds lying unutilized. And to give you an example, there is a term called sinking fund maintained by RBI, which is actually a fund maintained on behalf of the states, and it presently has about 1,35,000 crores. and this money belongs to states, and it is actually maintained all through to face situations like the present ones. So I think that money should be immediately made available to states. Other than that, there is about 85,000 crores worth of non-claimed or unclaimed employee provident fund amount. Many people probably for some reason they don't claim, and it is now swelled to 85,000 crores. It again in some way or the other relates to various states. This money can certainly be utilized because it has gone past the period for which the authority is supposed to be maintaining it. Another very important fund is the NMDC run fund, which is for the mining activities across the country. This again has about 35,000 crores. So these are the amounts which are lying unutilized. I'm very sure if government takes proactive action and releases these funds, it can be really be very, very handy for facing the present situation. So these are the first few ideas that I wanted to share, and I would now request Colonel PB to please take over. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kuldeep Singh ji and SP Singh ji. You have brought out very, very pertinent points and given a larger perspective of how to go about kickstarting our economy and improving our GDP to 8% minimum. Though desirable is 10%, to bring it to a optimum level so that maximum increase in income of people and in the lifestyle and the living standard of people of India is there. I want to add 2-3 points on the implementation of few things and also give few suggestions. First of all is the farm sector, agriculture sector. As you know, about 55% of our manpower is getting their livelihood from the farm sector. And most of them are marginal farmers or the farm laborers who have very low income, and any step to increase their income and thereby increasing their purchasing power will be a major step to firstly bring them out of the misery, poverty in which they are living, and also to give them more purchasing power, thereby adding more to the economy, circulation of the money. I want to say that firstly, there is a requirement of having a very vibrant marketing system where the farmer is able to get a remunerative price of his crop. At least the government has been saying a lot about it, that they want to double the income. I hope it does, and it bears the fruits, whatever they are doing, and the farmers are able to increase. If their income increases or the farm labor income increases, we are going to get a lot of more purchasing power of those people, and those people coming out of their miserable state. Also, the government should help farm sector by continue to give them subsidies, which all over the world are being given. So those should be continued, maybe subsidies in purchasing of fertilizers, in electricity, or in water, or in other things. And also farm insurance, so that in case of any calamity, if the crop fails, they are able to, they are not left to misery, or they are at least able to pay the loans they have taken, and all this suicides which are still happening, they at least are stopped. So this is the first thing. I think this is addressing about 55% of the population of India. Next is that increase in minimum wages. Various state governments, the minimum wages are set by state governments depending on the local requirements. But what I have noticed is that minimum wages in India for the unskilled and the semi-skilled people are very low. It is with that money, it is difficult to sustain in a big city or even in a suburb of a city where they have to spend money on their hiring accommodation for living, for moving to the workplace and things like that. So there is no harm in at least increasing by 20 to 25% their minimum wages so that they get more money in their hands. Yes, it may increase input costs because for producing anything, manpower is one thing, manpower costs will increase. And there may be some inflation, that is all right. But it will help another large section of population to come out and have a better living standard and contribute more to the economy, to the circulation of money. That is another point I want to say. The third thing is I want to say is about Manrega. Manrega is a good plan. It has been there for many years now. And lakhs and lakhs of crores have been given to this thing. A lot of people have benefited from it also. But there is in my opinion, some mismatch in what is being given to the people and what output they are producing. So there is requirement to be some sort of audit to find out what was the money spent, who got it, and what did they produce. This will obviate the leakage of funds and going of the same into people for whom it is not meant. There have been instances coming to notice where it has to go through a certain channel to the beneficiary. And there are a lot of loopholes or opportunities where these do not reach due to that, they do not reach the real beneficiaries. Also, it has rarely been, at least in our area, whatever, I have seen a lot of money, Manrega projects, but nothing substantial has been created on ground out of this money which the government, it's a large amount which is being spent. So that also is another thing which the government needs to address, because a lot of money is being given into this sector. It should continue. It benefits, it is required. A lot of people need it. Okay. The next thing I want to suggest is, I wonder.
Please carry on, sir.
I wonder whether it can be done, because this is about the income tax. Income tax, there is only 3% of population of India who pay income tax. And income tax is even paid by a person who is earning about 40,000 rupees a month. Coming to 5 lakh is the starting distance. So I think the level from where the income tax should start can be raised. So many people may get out of this thing, and to make up for the loss this side, people who are on the higher side, who have much more income in manifold than these people, it can be made up from there. Even if they pay 2% extra, whatever these people who are earning up to 6 to 7 lakhs a year, it will be made up. Government will be getting same same money into their ticket. So that is another suggestion of mine. So this is all I wanted to say. Though major points have been covered, the economy. Another thing I want to say about just a mention about the GST. Though I don't know what connection it will have with the GDP. GST collections, it is a very good reform in the tax sector, indirect tax sector, and it has now gradually taken a shape and has got implemented. Initially, there were initial starting hiccups, few months there were problems, but gradually these have been resolved. And now government is getting much more. They say it's about 42% extra in year 1920 than from where it started. The government is getting good revenue, and spending power of the government has also gone up. Though inflation has also increased, but still in proportion, the spending power of the government has gone up. What relation will it have with GDP? That has to be seen. Another thing I want to broadly say is that ease of doing business, at least for a SME who have lesser capital to invest, or for even for the foreign companies, the ease of doing business should be made more simple. There have been circumstances where even companies have who wanted to set up business, but they gave up, and foreign companies, and they left because compliances were so much. Getting land was not easy. Getting even a power connection was not simple. So lot of employment opportunities which could have been increased, lot of foreign investment which would have come to the country was not there because of the doing business was not so easy. Lot of it has been done, but still problems are there, for which ways have to be found to make it easy for the foreigners who want to invest in India. There is opposition from various sectors, various lobbies. That is all right. But if we have to get more funding from abroad, we have to give them that ease so that they can do business easily. They can get what they want from us to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Kadri Saab. I'll request Iqbalji, in case he can tell something, can he unmute himself, and if he has got any point to add.
No, I right not right. I would, as I joined late, I can't comment. I would love to do it in next time, not this time. This time I like to be listener only.
Thank you. Even if you have got any question, you can ask actually.
About two things regarding Colonel Saab. I was not very clear about regarding this income tax, because if government has to earn more revenue, they have to increase. I mean, bring more areas rather than increasing percentage of interest. I was not very clear about that point. Could you clarify that?
What I was saying was that instead of starting 5 lakh from where income tax is to be, raise it to 6 or 7 or 8 lakhs. Till that income, a person earning 7 or 7.5 lakh should be exempt from paying income tax. That is what I was saying. There will be some loss. A lot of people will be excluded who are now paying tax. Broad base, you're bringing more people who are earning more into the tax net. There are many who are earning much more, but they are still not paying tax. Ways have to be found to how they are not able to evade tax, income tax, and also for making up what government will be losing by leaving these people from the tax bracket or increasing the tax bracket by those who have very high income, making them pay 1 or 2% extra on their higher income. And if it is worked out, maybe lot of loss from the tax, giving relief to lower bracket people is made up there. That is what I wanted to say.
But SP Singh ji, based on that, I would just like to answer one or two points. One is that demand creation is very important point of economic development of the nation. There and governments have been very active in the past. For instance, Manarga has been a very active intervention. It was one of the best legislative piece brought by Manmohan Singh ji government. Even this government during last pandemic period has used that fund very judiciously. After our present Prime Minister made a fun of the previous government, they have again relied on same instrument only, same institution to give social welfare measure in the village sectors. So second point is cash transfers that has been recently which is come into the in discussion. Various governments as well as Congress government Rahul Gandhi before this election had also promised cash transfer. And third point which I have also added ki in income augmentation plan uh, tools and equipment. For instance, those Mandi people come to our house to buy sell vegetables. All those carts can be given free of charge. So thereby you add about 400-500 rupees per month to the income of the person who does that. So there are demand creation is very essential part of government activity. So we cannot sort of minimize its impact. Of course, the improvement that I have suggested in my suggestion, what Manarga improvements required, that this will become part of the district planning board. In district planning board, this will not be used as a social welfare measure. It will be used as a business promotion measure, so that it is in line with the economic need of the country. Many times they do the digging of the wells, digging of the some village road, which may not be required, which may not be done scientifically. It should be done as a proper business economic activity, which will add to the economic development of the place. So when it will be part of the district planning board, it will become a very useful way of spending in as far as Manarga is concerned. So my first point was more demand size of the economy rather than just focusing only on supply. Demand, augmenting of demand is very important part of economic development. The second point is the where this present government has been failing is because ultimately it's a very big puzzle ki why in spite of so many effort our GDP is going on falling only. Second thing is we need cooperation of state government as well as we need cooperation of opposition, which this government has been very much failing very badly. You cannot develop the nation, you cannot effectively implement your policies unless you are having full cooperation of the state government as well as of the opposition party. Particularly the point number 3 which I am mentioning is on financial sector. There is so much political interference in the running of the banks and financial institutions that cannot go only by government. It needs some sort of all-party meeting where so many people, everybody can calm down and have some sort of a common working model can be made in which the purpose will be that all the political interference must end as far as banks are concerned. Loans are given to the proper person. Speaking is all right, but to effectively implement, you need the cooperation of opposition, you need the cooperation of state government, and you need the cooperation of corporate world also. Corporate world you can control. I think SP Singh ji want to say something on here.
Just wanted half a minute's intervention. Actually, the problem between the public and the private sector banking organizations is that for the private sector banks, the only regulator is the RBI. Whereas the public sector undertaking banks, not only the RBI, but the Ministry of Finance is also one of the regulators. And it is in the Banking Act. Now, the problem with public sector banks is that they are not only answerable to RBI, but because being answerable to government and being a state as per the definition of Article 12 of the Constitution, they are also subject to the intervention of, when we write these articles, we mention 3 C's. So the 3 C's are CBI, CVC, and CAG. Now, these 3 agencies are, I'm sorry I'm using these words, but they are like hounds for the banks. And any action that smells of even an iota of misconduct can put them in front of one of these 3 C's. Whereas the private banks, they are actually not exposed to them. They're only answerable to the RBI. Another problem with the public sector banks is they are the implementing agencies of most of the government schemes. And therefore, it becomes very difficult to think of a situation that they will not listen to the political bosses or the bureaucracy, because they are the implementing agencies. So I think the best course would be for the government itself to withdraw from most of the controls that it exists and allows the public sector banks to work as a commercial organization. It is not a social service organization. It is a commercial organization. So I think this change needs to be taking place. Yeah.
I
Please
think
carry on, sir.
well taken. I think it's very, very correct what SP Singh has suggested. I'll go to the next point, that is professional autonomy must be given. I think that is part of what he has mentioned in public sector banking. Whether it's RBI, whether it's CVC, even though it is outside the scope of today's talk, or whether it is CBI, they should be having autonomy. Anyway, I'll not spend more time on this particular point, which is outside our today purview. Farm sector, that is Colonel Saab has suggested, कि farm sector assuring them MSP is very important. It's very important because all over the world, nowhere in the world, agriculture is operational carrying on without some sort of subsidy from the government. Particularly in our country, where 90% of the farms are very subsistence level, whose farm incomes are so low, I think a farmer is poorer than the poorest in the country. The position is so bad. But that said, I would also like to add one more point. 53%, that's the figure what you have also told, 53% of Indian population is on agriculture, which is contributing around 17% to the GDP, which is very, very poor. It is poorer than even informal sector normal average. Now, that apart from increasing their income, a lot of people from agriculture has to shift to the other sector. The major sector which can take the load is industry. Lot of industry where there our district planning board will have to work very effectively. Once they are working effectively, and once Meghnadara also is part of the district planning board, lot of population, like we are 53%, at least we must come to 25% at least. I'm just talking roughly. And unless the transfer happens, agriculture just can't take the load of so much population relying on that. That's the only one point which I'm supplementing to what you already told very well, your suggestion. That's the reason I've given a very unique model, which again needs a very elaborate, discussion to put it in under implementation. That is what I've suggested. But yes, the point is accepted. As far as the minimum wages are concerned, definitely we should have minimum wages. We need a very good employment policy. We need lot of emphasis on employment. Let me also tell you that India is the largest supplier of manpower to the world today. Our manpower we are contributing to USA, Europe, New Zealand, Australia. So they are also adding to our income. They are also at least decreasing our burden. So we need a very thorough policy on employment, how we can promote it, what type of industry we should have, what are policies we should have. So this is again a very important point, and having minimum wages effectively, uh, I'm also not very clear on that how it can be done, but we have to do. We have to do. That's the only thing which I can tell. Talking about income tax and GST is definitely outside the purview. I can only add one more point in under GST. Ultimately, what is the benefit of GST? We have forgotten that in our planning. When it was suggested during UPA time that there should be GST in India, when Manmohan Singh was working on that issue, the objective was that it will add 2%, if not 2%, at least 1% to the GDP every year. And from where it was coming? This money was coming in cutting down the cost. Unless your cost is cut under the GST, how it will contribute to the GDP, I'm not able to understand myself. When the basic objective was not to simplify alone, but it was to cut down the cost of the product. But cutting down the cost has not happened. Where we are failing? This is a very big question which comes under GST, which I don't know whether it has been addressed. That need to be adequately addressed. How collection can be simplified and how the cost of the product also comes down. It can come down at least in petroleum products. It can come down at least in alcohol. Even a thing like alcohol, why not that? I mean, government can't be standing like a policeman controlling alcohol by raising the duty, giving me this is not good. If it's not good, please ban it. But it is essential. So we've got to rationalize the taxation structure. Anyway, this is a. I think SP Singh has got some point here. I
Yeah.
can definitely.
Quickly on GST, I think the problem GST, as Colonel PV Singh just mentioned, it is, I think, one of the brilliant legislations in independent India, and the idea was to have one structure for the whole country. And we have seen situations wherein a truck leaving Delhi to reach, say, for example, Hyderabad in your town, sir, it would be passing through 6 or 7 states, and every time it enters a new state, it would mean standing there in queue for hours together, paying bribes to people, and the logistics of reaching from Delhi to Hyderabad, I think they have been reduced by more than 40-45%. If you take at the time taken. Not only this, it has also helped in terms of avoiding the discrepancies between various states. The only problem being faced is because the initial hiccups about GST, they created so much of confusion, and as regards the percentage applied, which is 18, 8, 18 and 28, I think there's a lot of confusion still. And as regards petroleum products, they are certainly not in GST right now. They can't be brought to GST because the moment they are brought to GST, the state governments are going to lose a lot of money in terms of the royalty and taxes that they collect presently. So although it would be in the interest of the consumers to bring petrol as well as petroleum products as well as liquor into GST, but the government is mindful of the fact that these are the only two remaining revenue sources for states. And if the states are deprived of them, and we already know that there is a lot of tug of war going between states and the center in terms of how fast the center releases the revenue share of the states, I think although it is going to be advantageous to crores of consumers, but I don't think in immediate future this is going to happen. But still, a lot of improvement can be brought about in GST, and you are very right, Kuldeep Singh ji sir, and even Pradeep PV sir also mentioned that we are now collecting over 1,20,000 crores per month, which is a significant improvement over what we were doing. So I think going forward, it has the potential of even reaching somewhere near 2 lakhs crore per month if all the problems are sorted. So that way GST needs some more time before it becomes seamless. Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying this point. My contention is only one, unless the GST cuts down the cost for the final product or increases the income at least of the producer, which he can again pour it back into more business. Unless the government revenue which is earning, they are spent in a manner which will increase the, which will aid to the economic development, the purpose is lost. In any such improvement, purpose should never be lost in our mind. Before we can, so I'm not able to at this moment, with all this positive point, somewhere we are missing. Maybe this last 5 years was a very big miss where we could not get the reward and this initial conclusion. But I possibly I need to understand. I think so this point a little more than what I've understood till now. So with this word, I will thank you very much. And before closing this, I would like to tell you कि Manmeet has put today that video on environment of the last time. So kindly go through it, give your comments, and then this can be put into our other groups also, where they can see the end result. So my request to all of you regarding this point of looking into that video and giving their comment and then giving to other groups. And the next topic has to be, I think I've covered every point. Have I not covered any point? Because I think we are able to conclude to that today's extent, complete whatever we had started with, our conclusion is final.
No, I think we have covered most of the points which can probably be considered by the government. We are passing through a very tough time, and there are two things now we need to immediately address. One is lives, and the other is the livelihoods. So the lives are being taken care of by our medical professionals and the rest of the people, but for the livelihoods, I think these points that we have discussed, they can actually go a long way in helping government. Some of these points may give immediate results and some of them may take some time, but I'm very sure as a country, we are all together with the government, supporting it wholeheartedly to see that we sail through these troubled times and the country comes out victorious out of these troubled times. Yeah.